Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, kings and queens. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Ralston Speaks. Now, today we were scheduled to learn more about the banks and credit unions that we can all patronize for our funds and our life savings to help support our community. But we're going to branch off for a brief moment in this video to get a better understanding of exactly how it is we are discriminated against and held in bondage in our own country. Now, me explaining these, giving you statistics and voicing my outrage and concern and love for my people makes me in no way a racist. I don't preach separatism. I don't want us to live apart. I want us to live together as equals. I believe in inclusion. Now, that doesn't mean that if I see an injustice occurring, I am not going to raise my voice and speak. So I'm glad that we've got that clear and that we know exactly where I stand. So, now, before we learn where to send our money, we have to realize that we don't have as much money to deposit in these African American establishments, financial establishments, banks and credit unions, as our white counterparts that hold the same positions in the workplace that we do. Well, you might think maybe it's lack of skills, maybe it's lack of education. Well, if you have the job and you were hired for the job, you obviously have the skills. So why is it that we do not get the equal pay as our white counterparts, even our Hispanic and other nationality counterparts? So I'm gonna branch off for a moment and give credit where credit is due, because as far as the workplace is concerned, and especially in higher education is concerned, our African American women are progressing in leaps and bounds. I've done a little bit of research, and the lionesses of our people have made strides towards higher education that is absolutely astounding. Now, these women have, first of all, African American women make up 12.7% of the U.S. population. However, they make up over 50% of students in college. Now, of those 50% of students in college, let me read a few statistics that I got from the National Center for Education Statistics, the NCES. They report that from the academic years 1999 and 2000 to 2009 and 2010, the numbers of bachelor's degrees awarded to African American women increased by 55%. The amount of associate's degrees earned by African American women increased by 89%. Now listen to this last one. Master's degrees in that same time span increased by 125%. Now remember, African American women only make up 12% of the population, but they make up over 50% of the population who receive post-secondary degrees. Now, you would think that with those numbers, they would actually earn better living and are able to acquire better jobs. Now, however, we will go to another statistic, excuse me. Now, we are going to categorize these in race: white, black, Hispanic, and other. Now, the other obviously means Indian, African, anything but Hispanic and black or white. So, if these are mean average incomes, yearly incomes. If you are a white man or woman and you do not have a college degree, your mean income is $100,000 a year. However, if you do have a degree of higher learning, a degree of secondary degree, your mean annual income jumps to $400,000. Now, remember the statistic that I read before, where the 125 elevated percentage of bachelor degrees. So you would think that the mean payment of an African American would increase substantially. However, it does not. If you do not have a college degree and you are an African American, your mean income would be $20,000. If you do have a college degree, that amount jumps to $60,000. Now, we see the disparaging of the differences in those amounts. Now, Hispanics, however, have the same mean annual income if they do not have a college degree of $20,000. However, we find that if they do have a college degree, their mean annual income jumps to $75,000. Now, the other category, they start out with a higher average salary without education at $40,000, and they skyrocket to $210,000 with a college degree. Now, focusing once again on the African American woman, we find that in 2015, now they found that the college-educated white man, age 25, made a median of $32 an hour compared to that of $25 an hour for the black man. Now, these studies were taken on a poll of jobs where the black man and the black woman, the white man and the white woman worked side by side. And so that means that in these companies that are hiring, it might have been affirmative action, what have you. They opened their doors and they took in people of color and included them in the workplace. However, without these African American men and women knowing it, they actually paid them less. Now, I'm flabbergasted that you can, it basically equates to smiling in your face and when you turn your back, giving you the middle finger. And this is something that has been happening for years. I'm sure it's going on today and will definitely go on in the future. Now, this is why I focus on telling you the differences in how we were treated, not to start protests and riots, but to implement change in the attitudes of the people out there, so that you can't make someone not be prejudiced. It's just not going to happen. But you need to make the people that are affected by racism know exactly how it is that they are being mistreated, so that they can demand equal rights. Now, a friend of mine, a young brother who's a warrior for our cause, asked me if I played chess. Now, it has been years since I enjoyed a good game of that strategy of chess, but he asked me, do you know the 3 principles of chess? I said, actually, I do not. He says, know your opponent, patience, and be willing to make sacrifices. That was a strong statement. Now, knowing your opponent. We have to know our opponent, and our opponents are racists. Our main opponent is Donald J. Trump. We have to know our opponent in order to combat him. We have to have patience. We are not going to affect change tomorrow, but as long as we persevere and keep our voices raised, we will overcome. Now, the last one, willing to make sacrifices. We have to be willing to make sacrifices. We have to stop giving our money to support people that when we turn our backs, they are giving us the finger, whether it be Chick-fil-A. We all love Chick-fil-A. I enjoy a good Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. However, the sacrifice to our people as a whole would definitely be worth not patronizing that establishment. And there are many others. Please do some research. If need be, I will give a list on a later video. I'm still compiling the list of the Black American, African American banks and credit unions. And speaking of credit unions, do you know that it only takes $250,000 to start and establish a credit union? Why aren't there more African American credit unions? LeBron James, you can start a credit union. Please, there could be there should be a credit union in at least every state, if not every town with a high population of African Americans, because keeping that money in the community can only benefit that community. And the $250,000 it takes to create a credit union, it only takes $1 million to start a bank. So, ladies and gentlemen, back to chess. Do we all notice that there's the chess players are either black and they're white, and the white side always moves first? The queen, which is positive in our community, the queen can traverse the board and as long as she's unblocked, as far as she can go, but the king can only move one step at a time. Well, our queens, ladies and gentlemen, are moving across the board. We have to defend them. We have to defend our queens, and they in turn will protect us. Now, to the 3 principles of chess: know your opponent, patience, and be willing to make sacrifices. Are we all willing to make sacrifices in our fight for equality and justice? The white man has proven that collateral damage means nothing to him. He will kill his own people as long as he takes out a number of us. Some of us know exactly what I'm talking about. We are facing a serious pandemic at the moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, kings and queens, thank you for listening. Remember, know your opponent, patience, and be willing to make sacrifices. My name is Ralston.